Hi, thank you for joining me for Faith Inspirations, the technique section. And so I hope that you are excited as you get ready to create. So I'm just going to go and we saw the printables. So I'm just going to move those over to the side so they're available for me. And actually, before I start one technique, I just thought about showing you, if you were to want to seal so that these colors don't run, because your paper will be wet and you'll be using a lot of tools, I'm just going to show you quickly how you can seal them. And there's many different, there's a spray, I know there's a Krylon spray, but if you just wanted to use what you have in your supply room, you can just take this and quickly go over top of it, and it'll seal that color into the paper. So I'm just going to do this whole sheet rather quickly and then let it dry. Now, some of the ink might smudge if you push really hard, like I think I just did there. But to me, that's magic. Sometimes it adds the other layers that I want. So I never worry. It's a piece of paper. And see, the more I'm rubbing it, you can see some of that color is coming up. So if I kept going over this, it's going to pull those colors out. So I'm just gonna quickly leave it at that. And I don't mind if that color goes into here because there's enough brown in here that I don't think that it'll change it. But I do wanna just kind of seal it. And then I'm going to let that dry, and then the front of it will be protected with the color. And so I still have a lot of matte medium on my brush, so that's okay. I'm just going to leave it. And I will let this dry. I'm just going to set that over here out of the way so I don't stick my hand into it. And then again, like I said to you, I like to add the image on. So I'm just going to quickly cut this out. And I hopefully you've been enjoying these sessions and that you're learning at least one or two quick techniques about how you can be creative in your art journaling and in your Bible journaling. You can take this to your Bible journaling and it would be so much fun. All right. So because I have so much glue on there, and I'm just going to show you this because you can see that the color. So if I had painted that on the front first, and I just got this all over my desk. Whoopsies. Welcome to the craziness. You can see the color that's tinted in there. I personally don't mind that. And I wanted to put this one on this time before I start dyeing the front. Partly because I had glue that I wanted to use up. And now I'm just going to kind of seal this. And that tint will go on to here, but I feel that it'll add magic. So I'm just going to put that there. And then I still have some glue here, so I'm just going to pull it off my brush. And now I'm kind of trying to add in a resist. This just came to me. And when you're using glue, though, you will have to wash your stencil. It's like adding texture paste or anything like that to it. And again, like I said, you can use, ooh, I like that. have enough for a gear? Yeah. All right. So I think that that's good. And then I'm just going to smooth this out a bit before I wash my brush. Make sure that you put your brush into water. And this is just a jar. I think I showed it in the other video that I created with molds, and I took my old jam jar and I recycled. And sorry I'm doing this, but I'm just kind of showing you my process of getting the glue out. If you aren't able to quickly go to the washroom right away, or if you're camping, or if you're going on a ski trip or anything. So I'm going to move that aside, and then I'm just going to take some water. And I love these brushes from Dina Wakley. They're my favorite. But again, use whatever brush you have in your stash. But sometimes I like to be a little bit of an enabler. I think we all are, hey? I always phone my friend and say, do you have this? Do you need it? I don't know if you do that, but maybe I'm just one of those girls. And so now the magic is going to come. And I'm bringing back in, and I don't think I really went over this in the supply video about making this, and obviously you can see my glue that I threw on the floor. So now I'm pretty sure I'm going to smell them. This is definitely tea. So this is pretend this is just clear water, and it's boiled and hot, and I put it over top of it. So I'm not going to pour it all back into here because I am going to do a mixture. And I'm just going to add some coffee into here. And we're going to just get crazy. So now I want these to kind of... And I'm not worried about being messy. Just so that... And now... And see how the circles are going there? And even with that, you could create your own gears. You could write little lines there, and it could be fabulous. So with that, I'm pretty happy. And so now, I don't know about you, but I find that I clean my workspace off, and then when I'm getting my supplies, I find that I run out of space to do anything with. And I do want this close beside me because I do want to show you this stencil technique. So I'm going to try to line it up here. And then I'm just dabbing over the different spots to create a background with my stencil. It's not going to be, some of it seeping under, and I feel like that'll create magic. And then what I did is I took, and I'm just going to put this on the floor because I don't trust myself. I feel like I'm going to send that flying. And now I'm going to grab my heat tool. Sorry about the noise. Hopefully my headset will. And I thought this might melt my stencil the first time I did this, and it did not. And so just because I don't want you to have to spend hours, and this is another technique, because if you see that the paper towel has a design, then you could use it. And I never throw my paper towel away until it's like really bad, or if I use hand sanitizer, I find that it gets too sticky, and I reuse it. And now I'm going to lift the stencil up and try to lock some of that in, but I think it was still too wet. But that's okay. And I just want to kind of dry this, because otherwise too much moisture on it will destroy your papers. And so actually some of the design is coming out, so you could doodle and draw, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do on the front here, but I might doodle over that verse or paint over it. But there you go. That's the front of it. And now on the inside, I'm actually going to take and bring my heat gun over. Bring this back in. And this is a splatter brush. And I know that we're supposed to do this at the end, but you can do it in whatever order you want. And just so that I don't get my ink full of coffee and tea, I probably will get my computer and my everything that's right close to here, because I should grab my splat box, but and I really like that. And now I'm gonna kind of just, because we're doing gears, I'm gonna take the tea bags and I'm gonna place them down. And these are just regular, I don't know, red rose tea, I think. And you can actually let these dry and use the insides or the outside of the tea bag in your artwork. And so really, you're not wasting. And now because I'm pulling stuff off of here, I'm just I feel like that's good. I feel like you need to go on the floor. It's making me thirsty. All right. So with that, I'm now just going to dry this. And you could have lifted this up and got even more designs on it. And I guess I should tell you, you should have a heat tool and stuff, but hopefully you'll already have that. But look at that magic that was just created there. You see the detail in there? And then if you took your stencil, you want to make sure this is really dry, but this is a pen that will write over wet and it won't wreck your pen. And then you're kind of making these into a gear. If you're good at drawing, you could just draw it yourself. And then that adds some texture. So those are the things that you can do. And now I'm just gonna look at here and see. So I dyed my paper. And now it wants to drip some water. And all I'm doing is I'm spraying in and allowing the ink to come out of the water, and it's a lot fuller. And it's unpredictable. And now you do have to know that some of these colors, if they mix, they might make mud if they're not close to the color wheel. But because I have brown in the background, I'm okay if they mix. And so you can add as much or as little as you want. And then I like to do, as these are all drippings now, ooh, I like that. And then I just took my drippings and I lifted my paper up. Now you could dry the drippings. Be careful because I can feel my paper is really super wet. So it's gonna wanna start buckling on me pretty quick here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna be bad and lay this down. But I kind of want that color, the same color, to incorporate on the front. And I want the blue a bit. But my purple's kind of taken over. So I might have to add blue later. So then, I personally think that this is a lot of yummy deliciousness. So what I do is I'll have another piece of paper, and then I can always use this for die cutting, or if for some reason it goes rogue and I don't like how the first one turned out, I can then do that. But I don't feel that I'll have that. And so then you're not really wasting the paper. I'm just gonna dry this one. Actually, I don't want that in the seam too much because that's gonna really cause my paper to want to rip. So my purple kind of took over on this too. So you may want to, if you're going to do this other technique, and then maybe splatter the other ones, which I might do in just a minute, and just integrate the drying up. But sometimes in life we could say, oh, I gotta get through this because people are watching, or I need to be somewhere. But God really needs you to be in that moment because he has something to say to you. And so I highly recommend that you do take time for yourself and you do allow the Holy Spirit to move in a mighty and powerful way, because you don't know what you could be missing. And like, that's magic. And instead of mopping this all up onto a paper towel, I now have opportunity for my next creation. So I'm just going to see if this is just a little bit more of a dry. And paper is porous, so it'll bend, but if you just gently work it, it can be put back into shape. And heating both sides will help it lie flatter if you really get warpage. But the lighter the paper you use, the more warping you're going to get. So that's why I use 140. All right. I like how that blue is kind of mixed in a bit, but I'm just going to try to... So what are we supposed to do? Drip watercolor and then splatters. So maybe I'm going to go to the splatters. And this is a fan brush. Ooh. And I'm just barely tapping it, but the more you have on your fan brush, which I put a lot of ink on, the greater your splatters will be. Okay. I feel like that's like, kind of like this guy a bit, hey? And now just because if you don't like your stuff getting dirty with this, then I would highly recommend like press and seal or a splat box in a regular box. You don't have to spend tons and tons of money again. I'm just going to get my fan brush ready to just take on a bit of orange. Now you see how it's moving on there. And now when I take it, it's going to splatter all over my page. And I think that I'm loving that. My water bottle's loving the splats. And I'm just going to quickly clean up, because if you don't clean up and you have it exactly how you want it, then and sometimes even just splatting water can give a different design on the front once it dries. So there we go. And if you fold the paper over, oh, see, now those colors mixed together, the blue made green, and it just added a whole new dimension, and I love it. But I'm just gonna pick some of it up. I don't want it to be so in your face because it's not one of our colors, but you almost got a turquoise over here. loving it. And so anything that's water will reactivate, including your tea and coffee could add more texture. So be careful with that. And then it says add a focal image. And so I did color this ahead of time, and I put like a Tim Holtz glaze on it to see on the front, and then I watercolored on the back. It still ran the ink a bit and made it green, but I like it, and it added the texture. So on this one, I am going to add the focal point. And do I have a glue stick by me? I must have my glue sticks. One moment. Alright. I don't know where they are, so I'm gonna have to just go with matte medium. I just wanted to show on the rice paper the difference, but I know I have a lot of them, but don't you ever find that when you really want something, you can never find it? And now this is mixing the colors because it is water reactant. And now I'm hoping when I put this down that that glaze on top will give it some structure and protect it from... The only thing is normally I like that the tissue paper blends in. And because I put that on there, I don't think it's going to, but we will see in just a second. And this is a tip to keep your bottles upside down if you want your glue ready, so that you're not struggling like I was. And I love using my fingers because God gave them to me, so why not? And now if I wanted to seal this, I would take my matte medium and put it all the way around, because anywhere I'm putting it, it should keep the color that way. So if it's fabulous and you don't want anything to disturb that, then feel free to put the... Yeah, it doesn't look like... Looks like the sealant is actually making it so that it doesn't show the color through. And I'm okay with that. Now you got to be careful because I've sealed mine with the glaze. If I was playing with this and it was just rice paper, it would rip like that other one I can show you here once I get my fingers undone. So that's the difference. I ripped that because that was just rice paper with nothing else. And this is my favorite calligraphy rice paper that I get off of Amazon. Okay. I'm loving that. Okay, so add a focal image, add cogs with the stencils, or use the printable. And now I printed these on rice paper, but if you even do napkin art, you can definitely use your napkin and just attach it to your printer paper with washi tape, and then, oops, and then run it through your printer, and then you have your own rice paper with the printable that was created for us. So how awesome is that? All right. I'm just going to add a few of these cogs. Sorry, I'm cutting them off camera. And I just want to walk through a little bit of, while I'm cutting these out, just this is where I pray and I just say, okay, God, what do I need to let go of? What are you speaking to me? And then I think that that's when I'm more free to create without expectation, without a desired outcome of what God is, or what I'm expecting this to look like. I'm allowing God to just freely move and take hold of that moment. And now I'm just going to I want to cover that up. So I'm just going to add that there. And then I'm going to take these and I'm just going to grab out one of the gel plates, which is the Love. And that's one thing I love about the Faith Impressions plates, is that they do come with more than one. And now I'm just going to take and see if I can kind of paint on my gel plate. Now, when you're using watercoloring, it doesn't always turn out the most crisp, but actually, I don't like that at all. Let's negate that. And now I'm just gonna put some of this here and see if I can get that to go on my brayer. No. It's still not what I was hoping for. So with this, I'm just going to take and add some ink to the back of my cogs. And then I'm going to press it in. I'm just going to, no, I'm not. I'm going to lift that up. And that's all. So now that's magic. And I want to be able to pull this off, but I need some, I'm just letting it dry so it fully dries, and then I'm going to bring out a purple and oxide. And I'm just using Wilted Violet if you're following along with what I'm using, but use whatever you have. And so then I always hold it up and I run my brayer across and I pounce it so that I'm lifting and pulling, lifting, pulling, lifting, pulling. And now I'm just gonna brayer over top of that. And then because I'm not sure how it's gonna turn out, I think it's gonna be fabulous and I'll regret it, but I am gonna put it here because we're talking about love and I wanna decorate both sides. So it didn't pull up the ink. It's almost like so maybe because this is an archival ink, I didn't think of that. Let's just clean this off. Or I'll just use a different side. Now, let's bring in an orange. And I just grabbed out carved pumpkin. So that's what I have here. And now watch this, I can just even and so that's where you don't really have control. But if you wanted to do it like this, and now I'm just gonna and this is what I mean about fun foam. Actually, don't mind that. And I'm just going to see if I have enough on here. And with gel plating, you never get the results. Yeah, see, with paint, it would be more defined because it would have dried. And I happen to still have these two here, so let's go with the darkest one. That's way too much paint. So with that, I'm going to bring in, and this is just printer paper that I put on these to store them in the case so that when I pull them out, they're easy to get. And oops, I don't want to get these all inky. And see, there's way too much paint on there. So I'm gonna put it on here. So I'm just pressing this in. And now I could have actually used my stencil for this. So now I've got the stencil. And I know people have used their heat tool, but I don't like to. But if it's not fully dry, then you kind of smear it and wet it. And normally I wouldn't waste that paint, but I don't want to waste your guys' time. I'm going to try something. Oh my goodness, look at that. Now, because it's on the gel plate, you can see that the Proverbs is backwards. So, of course, I'm just pulling this ink off. But isn't that... I'm so excited about that. Okay. All right. Now, if I wanted to add... I really should have put this on backwards. So, just because this is, I'm just going to take this and roll it and see if it's wet. No, it's not. So I'm just going to add a little bit more to this because I loved how that turned out. I think this is... And now, because I've added this other color, I am going to bring this in, move this off to the side for a second. And you can do this and practice this before you create it on your final piece. But I like to experiment. And that's like me and God and the Holy Spirit. There's a 3-in-1, and now there's still some on here, but I like that. But I think I'm going to like this other one better. So now I'm moving this over to the side. I'm bringing back in my stencil. And I just want to make sure it's on there. And now I knew there was still some ink on here, or some paint, so I'm just kind of playing with that. All right. And then I do recommend that you clean this, so I'm just going to quickly wipe it off while it's wet. Normally I would not waste all this paint, but or you can have like a bath beside you that you put it in, that the stencil stays wet. And I have coffee, so I'm gonna just quickly wet that off, and then I can wash it later. Hopefully I don't need that stencil again. And I'm just gonna take this paint . All right. Oh no, I don't want that to dry. So now, oh no. Ugh. I moved this aside to let it dry. And now, what a disaster. All right. Well, I should have dried that and not folded it over. I wasn't thinking that I was allowing it time to dry. And so now, this is what can happen, see? I could delete this and start over again, but I want to show you that there's always a reason. And I'm not hating that that one girl is there and that this girl's kind of faded in the background. So I am going to take this and hope that I can fix this. So of course that didn't turn out as good as I was hoping, but it kind of laid down some other things too. Oops. I'm just off to the side cleaning my brayer off so that this doesn't stick to it because it still has glue. And so say you did this and you're like, I absolutely wrecked it, it's done, it's no longer good. That's incorrect. Because you can just take a bit of gesso and you just change and pivot. Now I probably put too much gesso in here. But there you go. Now I'm just taking my paper towel, which is adding texture, and I could take my gear or my stencil and bring it back in. In order to try and fix what I think I've wrecked. And I'm just going to quickly do this again because I don't think I stamped it. So see, nothing is ruined. It's just an opportunity to change what you had originally liked and loved. And if you really love it, then I highly recommend that you don't do like I did and you draw your project before you move it. So there we go. Now we've got some more textures and gears, and some of my splatters went to the background, but I don't mind. And so now before I do anything, I am just gonna dry a little bit. And I think this is important, is that if we move on to another step, and I think that that's where we can get stuck in life, is that we still had glue that was wet. And we went into another situation thinking we're okay and we're gonna get different results. But then we get ourselves in a mess. So especially with mixed media, this would be a lesson to make sure that your image is done. Okay, but I'm not hating that. And I did put over to the side some more gears, and this might be able to rescue me completely. I did want to add this in as not a focal piece. It's still wet. Kind of feels like it. And I know if you put baby oil on this and let it dry, it makes it into vellum. If you don't have vellum and you only have printer paper, you can make your printer paper go a long ways. And if you want to see that video, that is on the YouTube that Justine, I do believe, did. Right. So I think I'm gonna okay. I like how that's going. You can be as messy or not as messy as you want. I love messy. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty and use the amazing tools that God gave me for free. So, and this is where I'm just layering and giving more texture to the piece. But again, applying the right pressure, making sure your glue is dry before you flip it over and play. And sometimes that's why I do the gel plating on a separate piece of paper, so that I can just add it in like a rice paper or a printer paper, so that if I don't like it, it doesn't wreck my actual artwork. That's what I should have probably did. Now I'm just sealing this in case I know it's already been sealed, but I just want to kind of take some of the harsh edges off. And that's how I fixed it. So you don't even have to throw away your paper. And I'm feeling like, okay, so add some words, a quote, and then distress the edges. So with this, I am going to add in some word fitting. And you can either leave these in a full strip or you can cut them in pieces, depending on how you want to lay them out. And sometimes what I just did even is how when we push people away or we don't get into community, you can end up removing that friend that needs to be there. But God will always be your friend, and he's there to walk with you and talk with you and let you know that you're loved beyond measure. And so just, you know, never take anything in your artwork as it's a final piece that's a mistake. And so maybe I need to remember not to push people away, or maybe God's given me an opportunity to talk to someone and I'm not being the friend or brother to them, and they're going through adversity. So there's many different ways that you can look at it. And yes, I am cutting this off to the side, sorry. I'm just trying to do this with my sticky fingers. So I like this here, and I kind of want that here. Not there. Great. And so for this, I'm just going to add in my Barely Art glue. And this one is one that, especially up here in Calgary, where we get a cold winter. So if you live in a colder part and your glue can't ship during the winter, this one can, and you can get it on Amazon. And then there's even a cute bear that it comes in. I don't have that one, but, or glue stick. If I would have had my glue stick, it would have been perfect. And sometimes I leave the space in between here so that I can write a note to myself if God was speaking to me about anything during this time. Or during my prayer time, he speaks to me after. I can come back and I can add it in. Perfect. And then I like to take my pen, my micron pen, and I like to just add some doodles. And I'm not going to go over here because it's wet and it'll wreck my pen, but over here should be dry. And I'm just writing and I always date it and write my little note. And I just wrote there, thank you for walking with me, helping me, or help me be open to where you were calling me to go. Love, Lorri. And then, like, I don't know if this is still wet here, but you can kind of do squiggles or doodles or broken lines just to kind of outline this piece. And I'm barely just letting the pen kind of walk and trying to remind me that don't pick my own path. Allow God to, and then you can do that along the outside. But because this is still wet, it's wrecking my Micron pen, so I'm going to wait. And so with that, I want you to remember that a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. And so, and then I would just take some of my ink. And sometimes I don't like to use a tool. I just use the pad to distress it, to just add. I find black almost draws your eyes inward. I don't know. I think there's something in art that says that, but that's what I'm going to do here. And then I'm going to just really see if there's anything else that I want to write in here, or, you know, talk and add to myself. But during this time, this is what I've created, and I feel that this has been amazing, and I've loved the playing on the front. I'm not going to close it because it's still a little bit wet, and seeing how, you know, you can play and interact. So there's many different types of ways to use your product. You can use a stencil. Like I said, if you want to do it on the gel plate, watercolor doesn't really work to give definition that you're wanting, but you can always color and do your images. So with that, I'm going to close in prayer, and I do thank you for taking this time to worship, and hopefully it's helped you grow, and God's been able to speak to you during this time as we both have created. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for each person who's come to the Faith Art journey, and I just thank you for them. I ask that you be with them, touch them, and bring them back safely next month. Help them to just really hold on to what you are calling them to do, and look for the ways that they can be a friend, or maybe a friend they need to allow a friend to come in close. Be with each one of us as we go our separate ways. In your precious and holy name, amen. Again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the journey. And I will just show you this other one because it is very different. I created with the stencil on the front. And like I said, I just let that really dry, but it took a long time. And then I added the tissue paper and rice paper. And this is rice paper again that I didn't color. And I just did the lines. I didn't do any splatter yet on this, but that would be easy enough to just take your fan brush and then add some splatters. So just quickly show you once again in case you want to see the splatters, just because I feel like they're both amazing creations, and this one actually has what I was going for. And so with that, I hope that you've learned, I hope that you grow, and I can't wait to see what you create. So please feel free again to post in the group so that you encourage each one of us to grow in the Word. Till next time, friends.